Elia. I've recently finished the PGDL, so I'm going to tell you what my least favourite modules and my most favourite modules are, and I'm going to rank them. So in the PGDL, you do 8 modules. You do tort law, criminal law, contract law, English legal system and constitutional law, administrative law and human rights, land law, equity and trusts, and law organisations. So if I'm being honest, I did mostly enjoy my modules. So this isn't going to be a case of like which ones I hated, but it's just going to be a case of like which ones I enjoyed the least. So coming in at number 8, my least favourite was English legal system and constitutional law. Now, it's not like this wasn't interesting, like it was interesting. It was just very introductory. It kind of laid the foundations for like the rest of the course, but it didn't have its own sort of really interesting, juicy things to get into. It was just kind of average. It was interesting, but just not the most interesting. Yeah, and it didn't feel very challenging, which I quite like challenging things, and it didn't feel very challenging, but still interesting. So my number 7 was administrative law and human rights. So this was kind of similar to English legal system and constitutional law. For example, that at the University of Law it was also examined by coursework, but it was also again felt quite not introductory. Like there was a lot more to this, but it felt a lot less. It was interesting, but just less kind of again. I don't know, there was something about it that just wasn't my most favourite. There were definitely parts of it that I found really interesting, and some parts that actually made me quite angry because it was kind of told you about protest laws and like public order and like really bad things happening with human rights. So it was fascinating. I think it was just more of like a very like less kind of to get your teeth into. Like it wasn't particularly like dense or challenging. So my next favourite was my next least favourite, so number 6, was tort law. And there was nothing bad about tort law, but also nothing that I found really exciting. It was very much it was very negligence heavy, which was really interesting topic and like very applicable to real life. So it was interesting in that sense. It's just for some reason it's the one I remember some of the least, apart from like the ginger beer, Snell being found in ginger beer. And that's the main thing I remember from it. And so it's definitely one that I'm gonna have to go back and revise again, like properly, because it just didn't stand out to me. But it was still interesting. Coming in at number 5 was law of organizations. Now this was interesting, but like conceptually it's interesting. It's about like businesses and like different ways of running a business and different organizations. But like in the module, it was just very procedural and like not very challenging. It was very much a case of like, if you do this, then you do this. And if you do this, then you do this. It didn't feel like there was a lot of analysis going on or like really critical thinking. And so it didn't feel very challenging, despite it having my longest flashcard set of 300 flashcards. But it was interesting. Just I wish it was more like, so we did a topic on like equity finance and debt finance, and I would have loved to learn more about things like that. But I suppose you have to understand the basics before you get into the more interesting stuff. Coming in at number 4 is contract law. Now, contract law was interesting and it felt very law. Like when I used to think of lawyers, I used to think of them signing contracts and doing deals, and this kind of underlied that. And it was really interesting. I don't remember the most of it. It was one of the first modules I did, but I do remember that it was interesting and that even it was like relevant to like later courses. So yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one to do, and I'm glad I did it, and it was really interesting. So my third favourite was criminal law. Now, criminal law was quite sad and upsetting in some ways because like some of the cases were like awful and you kind of realise and recognise that like this happened to real people. But it was like really fascinating. The cases were fascinating. The law is fascinating. Like I just found the module really interesting and really engaging. I wasn't a massive fan of like how it was assessed. It was an oral exam at the University of Law, and I think that's just me not loving oral exams, but despite that, of course, the module was really interesting, and I would study it again, even though I don't think it's something I'm going to go into long term. My second favourite module was Equity and Trusts. Now, I really love this module, which I know is controversial. A lot of people don't like it, but like, I loved it. Like, it felt very analytical. It was very challenging. Like, it was quite hard, but I found it really interesting. And there was a bit of maths involved, which as someone with a science background, I really enjoyed. But yeah, I would definitely, it was really good. Like, I really enjoyed it, but I know a lot of people don't. So finally, another controversial one, my favourite was land law. Now, like I said, this is, a lot of people don't like land law, and it is renowned for being quite hard. And it definitely, I found it hard and like challenging, but I really enjoyed that. And there was a lot of analysis involved, a lot to like sink your teeth into, a lot to like really pick apart and think about. And I really, really enjoyed that. And like, it was one of my favorite exams as well, because it was mostly just problem solving, and I love a problem solve. So yeah, that was my favorite module. So yeah, those are my favorite modules from the PGDL, from least favorite to most favorite. If you have any different thoughts, or if you are maybe completely different to me and maybe you absolutely hated land law, let me know below in the comments.